rest of that time. Turning to exhibit number 372 for a moment. You have an opinion on whether or not this would fill up the capacity of this subscriber's voicemail line. All right. And so if one was getting a message on November 3rd, when calling this particular phone number and said mailbox full, would that indicate to you that some
Hello, Sandra.
Hi, Tim.
Hi,
How are
Tim.
you?
How are you?
I'm doing well. Is this Lori? Are you on the phone and the computer?
Yep, I was. I turned the phone off. Yesterday, the computer didn't work. Today it does.
Okay. It's just a really small group. We just got a couple people. So
Okay.
there's Lori. And I know yesterday, Lori, can you hear me? She was having difficulty with the sound. All right. Nope.
So I wonder if my headphones would work today. I'm gonna try that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm having difficulty with my screens here.
Perfect.
We'll wait for a minute, see if Lori gets back on.
Okay.
What what grades do you teach again? I can't remember.
I'm actually a teacher's aide in K through 8th.
Oh, teacher's aide. Okay.
So at this time, we really don't use Zoom, but I don't know what's coming down the pipes through May, in May.
Right, right. And I know they haven't made any official announcement, but they're talking definitely at the end of school, or they're not going to go back this year. So, do your students have any other grade levels have devices provided by the school at home?
They do. They got Chromebooks, the upper grades, 5th
Upper
through
grades.
8th grade.
Awesome. Okay. Because a lot of the ideas I'm going to share today will be talking about using devices.
Okay.
Not sure where Lori went. Let me see if I can. Lori, can you hear me? If not, just use the chat box and. Awesome. So it's just you two. And so I just was going to go over some writing ideas. This can be a really short meeting. I don't want to take up a lot of your time. I'm sure you guys are trying to plan and come up with some different ways to work with the students. But you've both been through this spiel before. If you want to look at this slide presentation with the links on it, you can go ahead and write that address down. But what I really want to kind of focus on, so we're talking about writing, but and I've kind of mentioned this before, but I really want to take this opportunity to do something different with the students. They, everybody's schedule is out of whack. Everybody is vying for internet time and device time and things like that. And so really focusing on, instead of the traditional sit down and write kind of things that you do in school, taking this opportunity to really do something that the kids will enjoy and will really benefit them in the long term. Because we have an opportunity here that we haven't been presented with before. So this is just something that I found that I thought was really good, and it can be you can tweak this or make it your own. But if you send out a routine for your students, then I think that that would help, especially if you're going to do some writing projects. Instead of just sending something through Google School and then saying, okay, it's due on Friday, like setting up a schedule for them. Okay, have this part done by Monday, this part done by Tuesday, something to keep them in the routine. Because I think a lot of families right now are struggling with the routine. I know mine is. You know, it's weird not having an end to the school day. Just really trying to, you know, get up and get moving in the morning, be productive, and then having that transition back to family time, if you will. So, you know, just, you don't have to use this exact same thing, but just making sure that you send out some clear expectations and rules for writing in particular. Because typically writing projects are a little bit longer, like a math worksheet or something could be done in one sitting and you turn it in, but a writing project usually takes a little bit longer. So just keep that in mind. The other thing that I really wanted to mention here at the top was the purpose of writing. Really thinking about that as we're, again, at home. If you're used to doing either writing conferences or sitting down with a student and going over their work, you know, you're going to have to figure out how to do that remotely. But really focusing on, since the conversations have shifted around, making sure that you're checking in on students and that they have time with their classmates and peers, using writing as a way to do that. So take the writing assignments and have them be collaborative, or have them do peer editing, or any kind of option where they're working together so that they get some of that interaction with the students. And there's lots of tools out there. So I'm going to share a lot of tools that you can work collaboratively on. And then one last thing is, since the students are going to have to share with the teacher electronically anyway, maybe having them share with that wider audience. Students, it's been kind of proven that students write better when they know that a wider audience will be reading their writing. So if, instead of just turning it into you, have them, we'll talk about some different things, but have them write a blog or write something that's going to be published to a larger group of people, so that they can get some feedback and really have that understanding that their writing can have an impact and be powerful to make change or something like that. And so, Sandra, you said you work with all grade levels, so these will all be good. And I know, Lori, you work mostly with 7th and 8th graders, so a couple of these may be a little bit kind of more on the lower end of the grade levels, but still something that you can look at. And I'm going to try to give you some ideas for each one too, but these are just some online programs that you can use for different writing activities to kind of engage your students and do some of those collaboration and things that I've been talking about. So this first one I'm going to show you is just called Write Reader. And this is really, really good for, it's a really good scaffolding tool, but it's really good for younger kids or students, special education students or ELL students or things like that. So I just wanted to show you what it is a book maker, a book creator. And it links with Google Classroom. So if you already have your students in Google Classroom, you can just click on, they will just log in through Google Classroom. And then as a teacher also, you can log in with Google Classroom. And I think this is my account. My daughter has some work samples in here that is really awesome. This actually might be an example. Let me switch accounts here real quick. So Write Reader is a bookmaking program that you can have the students write in, and Write Reader. And then they can share their books and see each other's writings. Ugh. Well, I may have to go back. I really want to show you. I can't remember which account it is.
No problem.
No. Sign out. Let me go back to this one. Educator, log in with Google. Ah, my own kids. There it is. So this is what my first grade, my daughter did when she was in first grade. And so there's several things that I like about it. Let me just show you. So this is Neela's book and when she was in first grade. So there's several scaffolding options that you can do. Let's see if this plays. Can you guys hear that? Did I lose you? Okay. So anyway, the option here is that they can put in a picture, and then they can have their writing, and then this is an adult model. Okay, so let me show you what it looks like when you edit it. So the reason I like this is because then you're not correcting their work. You're just modeling the correct way to write it. And I don't know if you could hear what she was saying, but she expanded on her reading. So she said there was a cat going walking, and then it went home and had some lunch or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it just gives that extra model for extra scaffold for them and the model for you to write with them. I cannot hear you guys, so I hope that you're not trying to say anything. All right, so, but the other reason that I like this is that the kids can all read each other's books from the bookshelf if you connect it through Google Classroom. So you have your classroom, and then they're all connected, and they can read each other's books. So you get that sharing option. And then there's also options for the books to be printed or shared in a PDF to the parents. You can print and download, or you can share, and it's all free. So it's just a really good site, especially for those younger kids that need some prompts and some picture options and things like that. All right, Sandra, are you trying to talk? Because I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Let me see if I'm. Yeah, I don't know what happened. All right. Book Creator is very similar, but it's more of a blank canvas. So Write Reader gave you lots of picture prompts and different things to write about, but Book Creator is can also be used to write a book, and you can write collaboratively. So the students can be working on the same book, and you can share, but it's just a blank screen. So you can still import pictures and text and those kinds of things, but they in Write Reader, the format was very limited. You had a picture and then text, and that was it. So this gives you a little bit more option. Creativity. So this would be like for the older students. And there's a link to Google image search. So if you're writing about Abraham Lincoln, then you can, oh, okay, we'll do a car instead. So you can insert that and then you can write about it. Or as a teacher, you could set up a template and say, here's the prompt for the writing today, and you could send that out. So these can be shared through a link on Google Classroom, and you can invite a code for others to join in the library. So again, another way to get those kids working together, sharing their creations with each other, getting some feedback from their classmates and their peers, especially when they're not able to do that in person. So Book Creator and Write Reader are similar. One's generally used for older students, and the other one has a lot more scaffolding options for some of those struggling writers or struggling readers also. That's Write Reader does that. No Red Ink is a website that right now it's not necessarily free. They have some limited free options, but right now they're offering premium features for free, and not all that information here. But what No Red Ink is more of a grammar and practice writing correct sentences, talking about grammar. So you set it up just like the you would a Google Classroom, and then you can add students and create assignments. And I wanted to show you what, let me see, Mr. Kennedy's class. I'm trying to get into my class here. And so there's a class code to get in. So you would give the students the class code. And then I'm trying to get into my assignments here. Okay, so here's an assignment that I created, and it's on conjunctions. And so this is what the view would be like from the student point of view. And this is not necessarily the creative writing process or anything like that, but if you need something for your students to do to keep up with their grammar and things like that. So it talks about highlighting the coordinating conjunctions. And so it would be but, and then they submit their answer. So all of this is just pretty rote grammar kind of stuff, but it would be something to keep them busy and keep them sharp with their grammar. And then all of that data, whether they got the answer right or not, it goes back and feeds into the teacher portal. So you can see how all of your students are doing. And it even has grading options. And there's a lot of different teacher options for that. So let me see if I can. They have diagnostics, they have all kinds of learning activities and things like that too. And all of these are created for you. So you're not creating assignments, you're just kind of going through and looking at the skills and assigning those assignments to you. And there's results, you can edit the assignment, share it. I was just looking to see if there are some other teacher options here. Here's the curriculum that they offer. So there's all kinds of topics here, punctuation, commonly confused words, and then you can assign all these different kinds of formats of assignments here. So, and if you have questions, just use the chat box and ask those. One of the assignments that I saw another classroom do kind of remotely, they were doing it outside of class because they only had this class once a week, was using Google Slides. And what the teacher did was assign a Google slide to, she created a blank presentation and assigned a different slide to each student and then shared that with the class of students. So over here she had, if there was 20 kids in the class, you would create 20. And then she just had each kid have a different slide. And she gave them some sort of assignment that they were supposed to work on. And then they basically created a scrapbook. So at a time like this, then you could assign Johnny this first slide, Tom the second slide, and they could import pictures and text and even videos and different things for what's going on in their life. And this is getting back to that option for sharing and for writing for a purpose, writing for an audience. So Google Slides, it's built into the Chromebooks and all of the Google products already. It's easy to share with the different groups of students. So having them create something collaboratively as a group, and then they're able to see what each other's doing in their lives and those kinds of things. So I think that that would be a good opportunity to introduce Google Slides and writing electronically, especially at this time. So that was just something that I thought was pretty easy to use, and most of the students, if they have Chromebooks, are familiar with Google Slides already. Just a couple of others. These two are brainstorming and planning ideas. So I really like draw.io for those activities where you need to put some planning and some graphic organizers into place. So basically it uses Google Drawing, which again is part of the Google Suite. And so it has all the same sharing options. So you can share with the students, you can share with parents, you can they can share with you. You can assign these through Google Classroom also. And what this does, there's some basics, and then of course they have a ton of already pre-made templates and things like that. But basic diagram is just those bubble sheets that you do probably when you're in school for planning. But this is the electronic version, so the students can collaborate together, you can brainstorm together. You could remotely help a student, so if they're having trouble coming up with ideas, you can both be on the same sheet at once. And it's very easy. It's just like maybe inspiration if you're familiar with that, but this is my main idea. And then you can shoot off idea number 1. And then over here we have idea number 2. And then under each idea, you can have supporting, your supporting details. And you can input pictures, you can change the colors, you can format this however you want, you know, whatever makes sense to them. And then they can take this and put it into their written format. So you could have everybody maybe brainstorm at once, all of your students brainstorm at once, and then they could use that brainstorming session to do a writing activity. So again, this is done, can be done remotely. You have the share button up here, so you can share with anybody in your class and go from there. So it's the same as, it's part of the Google suite of products. One last sharing one that I was going to show you is Padlet. And this is not part of Google, but it's something that a lot of people are using. Let me see if I can find. I did this with a class of teachers that I was working on, and it's basically just a board of Post-it notes that you can share. It gives you an address. You can add members manually. You can send out a QR code, email it to people. So you share this link and it has a special code, and then they can add their own Post-it note on here. So again, if you're looking for ideas on how to have the students brainstorm together, this might be something that you could use. They do have some, this one has a little bit more safety options. You can filter out profanity. You can make it so that you have to approve it before it's posted. Maury, I know your kids you might need to do some of those kinds of things. But it's just, again, a remote way of brainstorming, and everybody can see, and you can all work on it at the same time. So I really like Padlet. And then one last idea that I kind of had was, if we're talking about that wider audience and maybe having, using writing as a way to process through some of their, what's going on right now, whether it's their feelings or just their life in general. You know, blogs have always kind of been sort of that online diary. And if, again, you know your students better than I do, but if you want them to have some sort of effect on their community and their society, you know, teaching them how to blog appropriately and working on putting those ideas out there and then getting readership and followers and all those kinds of things for the older students, I think is important. And there's ways that you can have them start a blog that's pretty contained, using Google Docs and just sharing it with the class first so that they're getting used to how to write appropriately for that wider audience, and then slowly expanding it to maybe just their school or anybody with that email address, the school email address, could access it, and then going beyond that and using something like Blogger that would get it out to the wider audience. And I think that that's important to teach that skill of when you're posting things online to that wider audience, you have to be very careful in what you say, talk about how the internet lives forever, and all of those kinds of things. So there's a lot of different skills, not just writing, but writing appropriately and commenting appropriately and writing on topics that people want to read about. So using a blog would be a good way to sort of incorporate that. And blogs are easily done remotely. So this just takes you to a link to Blogger, which is Google's free service that they offer. And if they have a Google account, they can just sign up and create their blog. One last thing I want to mention, and I appreciate you guys hanging in there with me. I love this graphic because, we're all forced to use technology now. And so this is just something that I always like to think about whenever I do any kind of training where we're using technology. And so, what do we want our students and our leaders to do with technology? And so, we want to teach them how to tweet and how to write blogs and how to text reminders home and develop a website and all of these things. So this is for you as a teacher or maybe your older students becoming the future leaders that we have. But really, these are the things that we really want to use technology to do. We want to build those relationships. So again, we're talking about having those relationships and that connection with the students. We want to flatten the organizations, and that means instead of having everything come top down, we want everybody to kind of be on an equal playing field. Change culture. So this is an opportunity again that we have right now where everything is up in the air, and I'm interested to see what's going to come out of this and what kind of teachers are they going to be better or worse, or are the students going to be better or worse after all of this? And so if we can take this time to really think about that and focus our energy on making sure that we are better as educators and then the students are better learners, then I think that that's awesome, and we don't want to waste that opportunity. So just something to think about. Do you guys have any questions? I kind of went over that quickly. It says here. Awesome. That's cool. So you've already been using Google Docs a little bit. Yeah, I just think anytime you can get them connecting with each other, and then if you can tie in some sort of writing activity or something, that would be awesome. Sandra, I think I lost your voice. I can't.
I'm not sure.
Hear you. Do you have any questions? You know how to open up the chat box?
Is this better? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Well, Sandra, if you have any questions, email me,
I'm
and we will
I'm good.
see if we can't get this working a little better tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right. I appreciate you guys' time. And remember to check out the website, see what else is coming up, anything that might interest you. And let me know if you guys have any questions.
Thank you. Bye, Tim.
Today I was talking to Deidre about